What's going on, fellow A-pluses? It's your boy Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new movie review. As believe it or not, we're going to be diving into Nosferatu. That's right, a fantastic Christmas Day movie, if you will, in regards to its release date. A really great contrast, I think, to some of the other holiday films out there. And so I thought this was probably the best time to go ahead and drop it. And with Nosferatu really being a classic when it comes to Dracula films, even better reason to go ahead and drop it during the holidays. You know what's fascinating? As much as I love going to the movies, I honestly don't think I've ever gone to the movies on Christmas Day. But I know it is a big tradition for a lot of people. People go out on Christmas Day to go to the movies. In fact, when me and the girlfriend went today, there were so many people in like matching pajamas, Christmas pajamas, going out to the movies, sort of thing. So, and our theater was packed too when we went ahead and certainly checked out Nosferatu earlier today. So I am recording this for you guys on Christmas night because I had to talk about this film, man. Look, this film is in fact directed by Robert Eggers. If you're not familiar with his work, he wound up doing the Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson along with William Dafoe, and I think he's probably most notably known for The Witch along with Northman, which that's actually a film of his I have not had the opportunity to see. So I was really fascinated to kind of see how his style of filmmaking would work with something like Nosferatu. And if you ask me, I think this is a perfect combination, quite frankly. Nosferatu is, in fact, a classic Dracula film back in 1922, if I'm not mistaken. From what I've read, it was like one of the first earliest adaptations to film of Bram Stoker's Dracula. We eventually would get a Bram Stoker's Dracula film back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I think we just recently a movie couple of years ago, the last voyage of the Dementor, which I think takes place in like maybe one or two chapters of the actual Dracula book itself in regards to his journey overseas, if you will. And so here's another Dracula film for you guys in regards to Nosferatu, really a remake, if you will, and a modern day version of the classic Nosferatu Dracula film. So Robert Eggers, if you ask me, I think his style works beautifully for this. There is a very sort of deliberate and measured pace to his movies. You know, for me, at times, very atmospheric. It's definitely got like a gothic vibe to it for sure. I do think that at times it may be a little bit slow for some people, but for me personally, I think it really worked. I find his filmmaking just extremely beautiful and always sort of driving the story forward, if you will. I think his directing is incredible in this particular film. I love that you can kind of feel the environments that you're in, sometimes very desolate, very cold, great senses of dread and just fear that he winds up providing when it comes to his directing work. His transition work and camera movements, I think, are really smooth in here too. Some of the most, like, pretty damn creative at times, if you ask me. There's some really great sort of transitions into next sequences where he either like zooms in onto something extremely close, and then as he gets black, it like opens up into a brand new scene. He's even got like just great sort of smooth side to side transitions that bring a lot of eerie fear in regards to it, right? Like as the camera's panning, you don't quite know what's gonna sort of pop up in regards to your peripheral view to kind of come out and jump scare you, sort of thing. There's a lot of great moments like that in regards to his filmmaking that to me just really work. Cinematography in this movie is really on point, pretty breathtaking in regards to especially the use of like lighting and some of the shadows, if you will. It feels very much, especially when it comes to the shadows, kind of very much finding inspiration from the originals. The idea of following Nosferatu shadows along sort of the walls of the bedroom, if you will, giving off this very sort of creepy and stalkerish kind of vibe, if you will. But they kind of expand it in this sense too, of not just bedrooms but also like different towns as well, looming shadows as Nosferatu is certainly like searching for his love and whatnot. So it is one of those things where it's a very sort of classic style of filmmaking and a very sort of modern time, and I love the fact that Eggers wind up taking inspiration from the classic and having those kind of movements with the shadow that are very reminiscent of the classic, but also also involving it in this particular movie. So I was really blown away by just the cinematography, directing style as well from Robert Eggers in here. I thought he did a marvelous job, to be quite frank with you. The acting in this movie is top notch. Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu is incredible. I mean, it literally took me about half the movie to ask myself, where's Bill Skarsgård? Like, isn't he billed on this, like in the credits and stuff? Like, isn't his name on the poster? Like, where is this man? And then it hit me like I've been seeing this dude the whole entire movie. The prosthetics work, the makeup work, the voice change, I mean, the way that he carries himself, height wise, you can definitely tell it's certainly Bill Skarsgård, but I could barely tell it was him. After the film, my girlfriend said she can kind of see it in his eyes, but I could not tell. Like, I could not tell whatsoever. William Dafoe, incredible in here as ever. Props to Nicholas Hoult. First off, this man is about to be Lex Luthor in the Superman movie, and he plays Thomas Hutter in this film. And the expressions of fear and him being frightened, I mean, are top notch. I've literally never seen a man so scared in my life. I mean, the performances that they have to do in here, whether that be Nicholas Hoult or even Lily Rose Depp, who I think she's only like 25 years old, and I'm honestly not familiar with a lot of her work, if she's been in other things prior to this, but her ability to transition from somebody that is extremely tormented to somebody that is extremely fearful for the love of her life, sort of thing, being able to balance those things to the point of like her looking like she's in full possession mode to immediately transitioning to being sort of the crying wife who's hysterical and fearful for her life. I mean, the body movements alone, I don't know when it comes to facial, like how much was CGI in regards to adding additional movements or like elongating, whether that be her mouth, her tongue, her chin, like just the way that she presented herself in here is like a whole nother level of acting that I find very hard to see these days, to be quite frank with you. But when it comes to something like Nosferatu, which is truly a Dracula film, that sense of dread and horror, and to be able to express that with that fear in your eyes, I think they did a marvelous job. The confusion, right? I was blown away. I was truly blown away by all the performances here in this particular movie. And the story was definitely there for me. The concept of a young girl at a very young time after losing one of her parents, feeling very alone, not having anybody certainly there for her, wanting to kind of feel loved, reaching out in prayer to kind of make some sort of connection or hope that she winds up getting the connection, and unfortunately making a connection with a wrong person, and it being something that kind of haunts her not only her whole entire life, but coming back just at a particular time in her life when she certainly does find love with somebody and winds up getting married, and to have sort of this vampire, in a sense, attach himself to you again, in the sense of killing anybody in his way, trying to find the life in order to make that connection with her sort of once again. It is a very sort of seductive, romantic horror story in the most vile and like traumatic way possible, sort of thing. The violence in here is incredible, along with the sense of, and I've said this a lot, but just fear and dread. Honestly, I think they do a remarkable job. Who I didn't know was in this movie that really surprised me? Aaron Taylor Johnson. I can be very critical of Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's not really a person that moves me in the movies that he's in. I'm not a fan of the roles that he picks all the time. I think his first film that really grabbed my attention was him in Bullet Train, the recent Brad Pitt film. And this is probably my second movie I've seen him in that I'm like, this guy is really good. This is probably my favorite role that I've seen Aaron Taylor Johnson play in here. Him being sort of the best friend, or somebody he can get along with, family, somebody that you can clearly get along with, have some laughs with, family man, but also being able to express loss and the idea of his life sort of being in jeopardy. I was really impressed with how he was able to make that kind of come across screen in here. So I can't sit here and say I didn't know that Dracula was such a romantic gothic sort of movie, or story in itself. And it is kind of crazy to see that the one thing that he clearly yearns for ends up being his ultimate weakness at the end. And there is something really sort of poetic in there, to kind of see the story of both this young woman along with Dracula and the people that kind of very much get hurt, and the society that gets hurt all at the same time. In the process of all this. So, really great work, man. I was a really big fan of Robert Eggers' work on this one. And if you have the opportunity to see it in movie theaters, I certainly recommend that you do. But look, guys, at the end of the day, these are simply just my A plus opinions. I want to know yours. Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A plus. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.